At Thanksgiving dinner, my sister suddenly stood up and declared, "We took a vote and you're no longer part of this family." The room erupted in cheers. I let out a quiet chuckle and said, "In that case, you probably won't be needing this." I calmly placed a folder on the table. The moment she opened it and saw what was inside, she lost it, screaming loud enough to silence the entire room. "Hey, Reddit, before we dive in, make sure to watch this story all the way through. It's one of the most intense family betrayals we've ever covered. And if you enjoy dramatic Reddit-style stories, don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into it. Thanksgiving at my parents' house used to mean warmth, laughter, and too much food. But over the last few years, it had turned into a cold performance of forced smiles and thinly veiled jabs, all aimed at me. I used to think I was imagining it, but last year was the moment I finally accepted the truth. I wasn't one of them anymore. I had become a stranger in my own family. It started when my father passed away 3 years ago. He left behind a modest estate, a few properties, some investments, and the family business. I was the one who stayed behind to help run it. While everyone else moved on, I was in the trenches, handling paperwork, navigating probate, keeping the business afloat. Not once did they ask how I was doing. Not once did they offer to help. My older sister Jenna always had a flair for control. She saw herself as the queen bee of the family. She'd host brunches, organize birthdays, post everything online like we were one big happy unit. Behind the scenes, though, she was manipulative, calculating, a master at turning others against me. Over time, my brothers stopped calling. My cousins unfollowed me. Even my mother, fragile since Dad's death, became colder, always parroting Jenna's opinions. I kept my distance but never missed a holiday, maybe out of habit, maybe out of hope. This year I arrived right on time. Pumpkin pie in one hand, a folder tucked under my arm. I wasn't expecting warmth. I wasn't even expecting civility, but I didn't expect the ambush either. Dinner began in awkward silence. I got a few nods, a few forced hello. Jenna, of course, was radiant, dressed like she was hosting a cooking show. The turkey was carved, plates were passed, wine poured, and then, just as people were starting to eat, she stood up and clinked her glass. "I have an announcement," she said with a sweet smile, "one that's been a long time coming." I took a sip of water waiting. She turned toward me like I was a guest who had overstayed their welcome. "We've all talked," she said, motioning to everyone at the table, "and we've come to a decision. We took a vote, and we've decided you're no longer part of this family." There was a pause. I looked around. My mother kept her eyes down. My younger brother, who I hadn't spoken to in months, looked away. My aunt smiled faintly. And then, like some sick joke, a few of them clapped. Others just nodded. I stared at Jenna, feeling nothing. No anger, no shock. Just the confirmation of what I'd suspected for years. I chuckled softly and stood up. "Well," I said, setting my napkin down, "in that case, I suppose you won't be needing this." I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the folder. I placed it gently on the table, right in front of Jenna's wine glass. She raised an eyebrow, her smirk not yet gone. "What's this supposed to be? Your resignation letter?" I didn't answer. I just watched. She opened it. First came the confused furrow in her brow, then the shift in her jaw. Her eyes scanned the page, then darted to the next, and then the scream. A loud, guttural, uncontrollable scream that made forks drop and glasses shake. "What the hell is this?" she shrieked. "What did you do?" I simply grabbed my coat. "You voted me out of the family," I said calmly, "so I figured you didn't want anything that came with it." I walked toward the door as her voice cracked behind me. "You can't do this. You can't just... You're lying. This isn't real." But it was. Every page, every signature, every notarized document, and they had no idea what was coming next. I didn't even slam the door when I left. I wanted them to hear how calmly it clicked shut behind me, how unbothered I was by the chaos unraveling inside. As I walked down the front steps of the house I once called home, Jenna's scream still echoed through the walls. It was the sound of a woman who just realized her empire had been built on someone else's foundation and that I just yanked it out from under her. The folder I'd left behind wasn't a threat. It was a reality they refused to believe would ever exist. Inside were the finalized documents transferring ownership of our father's business. The one I'd kept running single-handedly for 3 years entirely into my name. Not just the business, but the building it operated out of. The last rental property our father had kept in, the family. The final clause in the living trust that none of them knew about because none of them showed up to the final reading. They were too busy planning a family vacation in Aruba while I sat with our father's lawyer alone. Dad had planned it that way. He knew them. He knew they'd treat the estate like a buffet line, and I'd be left doing the dishes. So he left me the house I lived in, the business I managed, and control over the family trust once my mother either remarried or stepped down due to health. She had done both in the last 18 months, marrying a man Jenna handpicked and then quietly passing off all responsibility when her health declined. I didn't push it at first. I waited. I wanted to give them a chance to do the right thing, to include me, to respect me. But instead, Jenna consolidated power. She turned our family into a clique like high school all over again, and I was the target of her group chat whisper campaign. She poisoned my relationship with everyone. I didn't lose them. She took them from me. So now I was taking back what was mine. That night after the dinner exploded, I turned my phone off. The calls came in nonstop from cousins, from my mother, from Jenna's husband who had never so much as said hello to me without a smirk. I didn't answer. I let them stew in the silence. By the next morning, I had 4 voicemails from Jenna alone, each more desperate than the last. You blindsided us. You can't do this to the family. We'll fight this. You're evil. But then came the text from her husband, Drew. Short, cold. We need to talk. In person. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded everything to my lawyer. 2 days later, Jenna tried to walk into the office. The business she once referred to as that old mess Dad left behind. She strutted into the lobby like she still owned the place, only to be told, very politely, that she wasn't authorized to be on the premises. Security had been briefed. Her face was flagged. She didn't take it well. That same day, my mother showed up at my house, alone, no warning. I almost didn't open the door, but something in me still wanted to believe there was a sliver of maternal instinct left in her. She looked tired, older, smaller. I didn't vote, she said quietly. I didn't say anything. She stepped into the living room and sat down on the edge of the couch like she didn't belong. Maybe she didn't. I didn't cheer. I didn't clap. But you didn't speak up, I finally said. She looked away. After a long pause, she whispered, Why did you do it like that? I could have given her 100 answers. Because they humiliated me. Because they treated me like dirt. Because they laughed when they pushed me out of the only thing I had left. But the truth was simpler than that. I gave them 3 years to treat me like family, I said. They used every one of those years to treat me like garbage. So I gave them exactly what they asked for. She nodded slowly. Then she left. No hug, no words of comfort, just silence, like always. By the end of the week, the ripple effects had reached everyone. Jenna's lifestyle, the expensive house, the multiple vacations a year, the luxury SUV, all of it was subsidized through business dividends and rental property profits. With her access revoked and payments frozen pending audit, the ground beneath her began to shake. Her emails turned from rage to panic, from threats to apologies, and then finally to begging. Please don't do this. You're still my brother. Please. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I didn't respond. Instead, I sat at my desk, looked out the office window at the quiet street below, and thought about all the times I was told I was too sensitive, too dramatic, or not a team player. I thought about every birthday I spent alone, every family photo I was cropped out of, every dinner I was told was just for immediate family. Now they were learning what it meant to be on the outside. But this wasn't revenge, not yet. 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, Jenna put her house up for sale. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, newly renovated kitchen, all of it plastered on a real estate listing with a price slashed twice in 7 days. She was desperate. Her husband had lost his access to the business credit line I had closed the week before. Their lavish lifestyle, the one they flaunted in every holiday card and Instagram post, had been running on fumes, and now the tank was dry. Meanwhile, the office was quiet, peaceful. My staff, who had always felt like family to me in ways my blood relatives never did, finally had the resources they needed. I gave everyone a raise, restructured the work schedule, funded a full tuition scholarship for our intern, who worked part-time while taking care of his sick mother. The team was thriving. The business was booming, but at home something gnawed at me. This victory didn't feel clean. It didn't feel like justice. It felt like a wound with a bandage made of ice, numb but still bleeding underneath. Because as much as I wanted to deny it, Jenna's words, "You're not family anymore," had done more damage than I let show. They hadn't just cut me out of the family. They buried me, treated me like I died and wasn't worth mourning. And now I held all the cards. I could have crushed them entirely, sold off the remaining family properties, auctioned the heirlooms, taken back the car Jenna gifted herself from our father's estate, all legally mine now. But that wasn't the kind of legacy I wanted to build, not even for them. So I did one last thing, something they never expected. I called a meeting. I invited Jenna, my mother, and our two brothers to the boardroom at the office, the same one they hadn't stepped into since Dad's funeral. They walked in wary, confused. Jenna looked like she hadn't slept. My mother wouldn't meet my eyes. My younger brother brought his wife, the one who blocked me on Facebook 2 years ago and forgot my birthday every year since. "I'm not here to argue," I said, standing at the head of the table. "I'm not here to fight, and I'm not here to forgive." Jenna flinched at that last word. "I'm here to give you clarity and closure." I passed around a packet, one for each of them. "I'm transferring the remainder of the family trust into a charitable foundation, one that will fund education grants, healthcare support, and community programs. In Dad's name, you will no longer receive passive income from it." Jenna's mouth opened. "You're cutting us off?" "No," I said calmly. "Dad already did. You just didn't bother to read the fine print." My mother gasped, but she didn't protest. "The foundation will retain the properties under its name. You are welcome to apply for support just like anyone else, but there will be no special treatment." "And you're in charge of it?" my younger brother asked. "For now," I replied, "but the board will include members of the community, not the family." Jenna stood up, trembling. "You're destroying us." "No," I said. "You destroyed yourselves. I'm just making sure no one else gets hurt in the fallout." She stormed out. My brother followed. Only my mother remained, her eyes glassy. "Do you hate me?" she asked after a long silence. I paused. "No," I said, "but I don't trust you, and I don't miss you." She didn't reply. She simply got up and left. That night, for the first time in years, I had dinner with people who genuinely cared about me. My staff, their families, a few friends I had distanced myself from while chasing approval from people who never deserved it. There were no passive-aggressive comments, no judgment, just laughter, warmth, and honesty. The next morning, I went to visit my father's grave. I hadn't been in a while. I brought a small bouquet, placed it gently, and sat beside the headstone for a while. The wind was calm, the sky overcast. It felt peaceful. "Don't worry," I said quietly. I finally let them go. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt free. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about rebuilding yourself without them. If you were in the same situation, would you have handled it the same way? Let me know in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching. More stories are coming soon.